Hello, today we're going to talk about making a crossword puzzle using Google Sheets. I really struggled with trying to find something engaging for the kids to do, and all of my paper crossword type stuff was no longer useful in this remote environment. So I went looking for options, and there's lots of tools out there to create crossword puzzles, or any sorts of puzzles. But the tools for having students enter their information in and turn that stuff in is fairly limited, unless if they logged into something or it was just cumbersome. So I stumbled across a couple of tutorials, and I pieced them together into what I have now. And it's kind of a cool little spreadsheet, and it does some validations. So if I enter 9 across, a small cutting tool used with brace, that is a bit. So you'll notice that it will turn green if it is correct. If you enter letters that are not correct, it gives them feedback. So it gives them instant feedback, which is nice. You can see here on the right hand side, I have a list of words and clues. I like the Discover Puzzle Maker, and I just did a search for Puzzle Maker. The Discovery one is the one that I usually like to use. And the Crisscross Puzzle, it wants things in this format where the word comes first, and then without any punctuation, it's just the word and then a space and then the actual clue. So I'm going to select all of my clues and copy them. I'm not going to worry about any of this stuff because I'm not actually going to use their format. I'm just going to put my clues in there, and then I'm going to go ahead and I don't even need this. I'm going to go ahead and create my puzzle. Alright, so I'm going to just take a look at the way that the puzzle looks first, because I'm going to need to build this out in Google Sheets, and I'm going to make sure that there aren't any things like bumping up so that I have some numbers to put. This one's okay, but it's a fairly, I think I want it to go lengthwise, so I'm going to just rebuild it until I get a shape that I like, that I'm comfortable with, and I want to build from. This looks like it will do. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, but I'm going to go from the very top of my page where there's some text, and I'm going to just click and drag down. It's important to see that that image selects as well. And I'm just going to go and get all my clues and come down here. I'm going to copy this using Command C or Control C. And then I'm going to come over here into my temp document, and I'm going to just paste it in here just so that I have it. That's why I've got it set up on the side so that I can see it while I'm working. So to paste it, it's Control V or Command V. And you can see that the puzzle comes in, as well as my clues that I will use later when I'm formatting my form. But this is really what I want to see right now. So now that I have my template started, I'm going to come over to a fresh sheet. I'm going to select all of the rows by clicking and dragging across the top, and I'm going to go all the way over to the end, and it actually just goes to Z, which is fine. And now I'm going to right click on one of these rows, and I'm going to say resize columns A to Z. And then I'm going to go ahead and go 25 is about the size I want, and say OK. All right, now I got a grid pattern. So I'm going to use this grid pattern to build this out. It's a little bit on the part that can be a little bit on the tedious side. Some tips is, one, you want to leave a padded row all the way across the top, and then you also kind of want to leave a row down one side and down this side, just for manipulation purposes. So I'm going to start this right here, and I'm going to fill it out. Okay, it looks like I've got all my words in here. It also looks like I made a little bit of a mistake, but it's easy fix. See, I accidentally started a little bit too tall. I didn't leave that padding row that I really need. So what I'm going to do to fix that is pretty easy. I'm going to go and click on my first free row. And once I've clicked on the whole entire row, you'll notice my cursor turns into a little hand, and now it's going to allow me to drag that. So I'm just going to drag that free row all the way up to the top. And there I've got my buffer row again. I did the same thing over here on the left side, so I'm going to just take my row Z and I'm going to drag that over here to the beginning. There. And now I have those buffer rows in there for me. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to start formatting. So I'm going to actually just click and drag and select just my crossword areas because I'm going to put my clues down here, and I want the formatting to be a little bit different down there. So I'm going to choose center to the middle of all of those fields so it looks like it's in the center. And I'm actually going to choose a vertical line to center it as well. It doesn't really show you much of a difference here, but I just like to have things nice and centered. So now when students enter the letter into those fields, it's just going to show up right in the center and it's going to kind of make sense. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it start looking like a crossword. So I'm going to select just the words, and then I'm going to come up here and choose all borders, right? I'm going to go through and just choose all of the words for each word and choose all borders so that it starts to look like at this point. Let's get our clues on the page so our page starts looking like our worksheet. So I'm going to come over and copy all of this. I'm going to paste it here. Remember that I need one free row here. If I want to do any instructions either above or below, I can always add some rows later, but I'm going to actually leave 2 rows free. I'll start right here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and paste. All right, so there is a little bit of formatting that you need to do after you've pasted, but we're going to actually format this all separately. So we'll just take the formatting that it came with. We do have to merge the cells. One of the things I like to do, and you can choose to do this if you want, is I like to put the numbers in their own square just because it lines up nicely. So to do that, you would come in here and cut that out and go to the next field and paste it in. Again, I'm going to format this in a minute, so it doesn't matter that it's not the right formatting. And then I need to merge all of the cells. So then I click up here. This is the merge button. Click that and it all merges. Now some fields like these need to have the wrap text turned on. So I'm going to go ahead and get this out. Paste this in here. I'm going to do the merge again only to the last padded row. And then I'm going to come up here and choose my text wrap. All right, this just gives me my text wrap. If you don't want to separate the numbers, you do not have to do that. So this row right here, let's do that. So if I just take the whole entire row, or at least all of the squares that I want in that row, and then merge those, that's perfectly acceptable as well. I'm going to separate all those numbers. All right, now that I have them all separated, I'm going to go ahead and do some formatting. So I'm going to just select all of this, make sure that the text is all the same, whichever font it is, and although it says that it's 12, it is not all 12. So I'm going to actually just select one and then select another so that it kind of gives a kind of a good overall selection. I'm going to make sure that all of my numbers are formatted to the top of the cell so that if there's a double line, it double lines. And then I'm going to actually center this just because it makes it a little bit more readable. Oops, I didn't grab this. There, it just makes it a little bit more readable as they go down. Now that we have it all formatted down here, we're going to format it up here too. We're going to make sure that these letters are not so teeny. So let's go ahead and give that a little bump up in size. We picked 12 for down below, so let's pick 12 for up here too. All right, so now we're going to start our validation. So to do our validation, and admittedly this is the most tedious part of the whole entire process, but it really is worth it, and it gives the kids that instant feedback. So what you have to do is you have to select all of the letters and then do what's called conditional formatting. So you can select multiple cells at once by using your control or your command key. So I'm going to choose, let's choose B's. I'm going to go and select my first B, and then holding my command or control key down, I'm going to go and select all of the other B's. So when I click it, you can see that it has selected multiple. I'm going to leave this one out on purpose, just so I can show you how to add something if you end up forgetting. So now that I have all of those selected, I can release my command or control key, and I can go up to Format and choose Conditional Formatting. Over here, it's got all of the cells that I've just selected already highlighted for us. We're going to come and choose our rule to be text contains, and this I want it to contain B. Does not matter if it's a capital B or a lowercase b, and it doesn't matter if they enter a capital or lowercase, which is really, really handy. I'm going to use the default formatting for this, so if they enter the correct letter, it's going to show a green background. Now, I'm not going to click Done quite yet. I'm going to click Add Another Rule, and these are going to use these same cells, and it's going to basically copy everything. So now I'm going to change it to text does not contain. So if they're incorrect, I'm going to actually make the background be clear, and I want the text to be red. If I choose just to have the background to be red, when I go and delete everything at the end of all of this, what will happen is all of the fields will just be red, and that will be kind of alarming. So clear background with red text. And then when I say done, you can see here are both of my rules. Text containing B are going to format it that looks like this, and then text that does not contain B is going to format it like that. And if I go to a different field, you can see the rules are different, so they're definitely specified on each field. So now I want to go, I made a mistake, I accidentally forgot this B, and I want to add it, right? I don't want to have to go through all that whole process again and add another rule. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the field, I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to take note of which field I'm in. You can play the game here, it's X and it's Y, or you can look up here. So it's Y5. So then I'm going to go back to a field that already has that conditional rule in it, and I'm going to add Y5 to it. So I just click here, add the comma, add Y5, say done, and then make sure and add it to the incorrect field as well, and then say done. All right, that's handy for forgetting things because there's a lot of letters in here, and it does get quite tedious. So I'm going to go through and enter all of the validations for my sheet now. Okay, now all my validations are entered. I want to go and just take a real quick look at all of them all at one time. So I'm going to just go ahead and click and drag the whole selection here, and then I want to take a look at this list. I want to see it makes you be able to see kind of at a glance if any of your clicks were off. Looks like I did a pretty good job this particular time, but that's not always the case. And usually they're glaring. Usually it's like the green. I accidentally leave the green and it's got red text. So I see that everything looks right here, so I can go ahead and close my conditional formatting rules. And at this point, I can go ahead and get rid of all of the actual letters inside of there. So I'm going to select it all and hit delete. Right. All that has done is gotten rid of the letters. The validations are still in there. So, and actually I saw when I had the letters, it actually shrunk up my fields a little bit too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these rows. I'm going to put a height on them. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to resize rows 1 through 15. And I'm going to specify the height to 25 so I have nice squares, because that's what the width is that I set onto my columns. Alright, so now when I hit my delete key, there's no jumping around. Everything stays the way they need to be. Okay, and the validations still work. So if I go ahead and type in my first word, okay, everything works just like I expect it to. Now let's make it some more pretty. I want to get rid of these grid lines. That's as easy as going into view and then turning off grid lines. So now it looks like a nice word search. You can bold some of these, do some formatting. Make it look at however you want. I'm going to want to put a title in here. So what I'm going to do is come back down here, grab one of these free rows, or I could insert a row if you know how to do that, but this is just as easy. Drag that up to the top. I'm going to merge all of these cells. You can't see it because I've got my grid lines turned off. I'm going to merge all of those cells and put my title of this particular worksheet. Let's see here. This is for chapter. All right, let's make it a title. Give it an interesting font, put it in the middle. There we go. All right, now I'll turn my grid lines off. All right, I don't love how long this is, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually come down here, give it a little bit of padding of a row or two, and then I'm going to click and drag all of the remaining rows. Oops, sorry. If you click and drag, it just wants you to move it. I want to actually select them, so I'm going to select them all. There's 1,000 of them, so I'm just going to kind of go real quick with it and go real down to the bottom. And then I'm going to delete these rows. So delete rows 35 to 1,000. All right, now it just looks like a worksheet. And when they open it, they'll have just this view. All right, we're just about there. So now we're just missing a couple of key things. One thing I like to do is lock my fields here so that it doesn't accidentally get overwritten. So I'm going to just click and drag all of the fields that I want to lock. I can right click on it and I'm going to say protect range. You can enter a description if you want. I'm just going to go ahead, edit this. I'm going to just make sure and say this is only me. Changes saved. I have had some interesting effects with sometimes when you share the file out to your Google Classroom, you definitely want to share it out. It's giving everybody their own file, and sometimes that protected range, I guess, doesn't necessarily hold. But I like to throw it on there just in case, just to make sure that their pages don't get messed up. All right. Now, finally, the last thing that we need, and the students need to be able to do this, is we need to put the numbers into our fields. So there's a couple of ways that you can do it. You can put the number right in the box itself, which can be kind of confusing. What I like to do is if it's a cross, I put it to the side, and if it's up and down, I put the number up and down. So like this is 2. I'm going to come through and format these as well, so that they're not so big and glaring. Right, so now that I have all my numbers in, again, I'm going to make them a little bit smaller. So I'm going to actually do two different formattings, the top numbers and then the side numbers. So for my top numbers, I'm going to select the fields, choose a smaller font. I really don't need it that big. 9 works. And I'm going to actually also have these down. And that's about good. So now that I have it formatted the way I want, I'm going to come over here and click my format, my paint format. And then I'm going to go and click on the next field. Paint format, the next field. Paint format, next field. These are only the down ones because I need to format the across ones differently. All right, so that's all my downs. And now let's format my across, because my across I want to align all the way to the right. Make this smaller. All right, so now I'm going to grab my format and then just my across ones. Format, across. That was that. Okay, so now it is good to go. You're ready to attach this to a Google Classroom assignment. Again, I would suggest attaching it as giving each student their own copy. That allows them to not have to worry about making their own copy, and also it allows you to see at a glance when you look at the view inside of Google Classroom which students are actually completing them and which students are not, because you can see the green validation inside of the thumbnail that Google Classroom gives you. All right, I hope this helps. I hope it's useful. Have a great day.